Hello. I'm putting my glasses away. Yay, I'm not going to the mouth today. Well, I sort of am. Today we're talking about weight. Interesting subject. Struggle and the height of topic for most people, certainly for women. Yeah, so weight. Gosh. I grew up in show business, pageantry, not heavy pageantry, mostly show business, most of my life, actually all of my life. And weight, obviously, is excessive as a focus in that realm. And the funny thing is, I remember looking back at old photos of myself during times where I was so self-conscious because I had some weight on me. But I look back on it and I'm like, are you kidding me? I did not have a weight problem. I just wasn't a rail like other people. So I've grown up with weight issues my whole life, unfortunately. And I know that I'm not the only one. I know that all of us, on some level, whether it's you're too thin or you're too heavy or whatever, it's so interesting that our society is such an issue with this weight. Yeesh. Anyway. So, I don't know if this one's going to be split into two. I'm having a sense that it will. So at least the first part will be the physical stuff, and then the second half will be emotional, symbolic, spiritual stuff, like we've been doing it. It just happened to work out that way because of the timing of how things were being laid out as I've been recording. So, as far as the topic of weight, there are so many reasons for it, which I'm really, this is the one subject I'm really having a bit of a difficulty separating the physical from the emotional, because it's so much of it's emotional. But on the physical side, weight, regardless of your weight, the question is always of health. And weight and health do not always coincide. You can have someone extremely skinny and completely malnourished, meaning with poor health, and you can have somebody extremely skinny and be at the peak of health. And that is not just a visual thing, right? We've made health a very visual statistic. And so to the opposite extreme, somebody who may be overweight, within a reasonable confine of overweight, there's no possible way that they could be healthy, their heart could be healthy. Well, yeah, there is. It's also very possible that they could be very ill. So I think the big topic is really that weight and health has become synonymous. And it's so not. So not. When I was at the peak of my visual health, six-pack, muscles, I was rocking it. And I was, not only was I accused of being anorexic, bulimic, I was completely depleting myself. And that's when I went into one of my massive midlife crises in my 20s, and went into my 5-year depression. massively depleting. I was teaching 14 hours a week of aerobics. Yeah. And then I got pregnant. So there's a spiritual FU. All right, you got there. You're sick, you're depressed, and yeah, and then we'll get pregnant. Oh, gotta love it. Anyway, so health and weight or size is not synonymous. Okay, so that's one thing. The other part of overweight or underweight has to do with there are some illnesses. Obviously, there's mental illnesses, body dysmorphia, etc., anorexia, bulimia, whatnot. So those are social pressure issues. And I think it's one of the only things that I appreciate with some of the reality stars right now is that some of them are presenting or have the opportunity to present that larger sizes are just as exciting, interesting, and fun and powerful as smaller sizes. Although even within that realm and context, there's some absolute absurdities in fashion and sizing from these people who are in the reality business that just make no sense at all. Like an extra large in a company with somebody who's got an extra large body fits like a medium large. Anyway. Personal example. Anyhow, so some of the social pressures are the illnesses of excessive weight and underweight. And again, it's a difficult topic to isolate the physical from me from the emotional, because there is just the emotional may be going on for a couple of days. And so obviously with the physical, there are pharmaceuticals that will unfortunately cause weight gain. Hormone imbalance will cause weight gain. The interesting thing with fat is that fat absorbs toxicity. And so, yes, that's emotional, but actual physical toxicity. So, mercury overload in the body, bacterial overload in the body. The fat is there to absorb excess in the body. It's a place for it to store. If it's not going to go anywhere else, if it's not going to get pooped out, peed out, sweated out, exfoliated out, it's going to go in your fat. So in our sedentary system now, primarily sedentary, the fat has a greater job. And so it needs more of itself to be able to do more of what it's designed to do. So hormones, metabolism, obviously the diet pills and all that sort of stuff can really mess up the internal system. And dehydration can actually cause weight gain. Inflammation can cause weight gain. And so if the body ever feels like it is needing to protect itself from either lack of food or an excess of toxins, it's just going to add fat cells. That's just what it's going to do. And so the reverse is if there is a deprivation, prolonged deprivation, the fat cells will allow itself to be utilized in order to help that person survive, right? So the fat is there for energy, but the fat is there for protection. The fat is there for nourishment utilization should you get down to that level where you're really, really, really off and you need some absolute food, then that becomes fuel. And so it's such a vast topic on the physical side. It's again, it's difficult to focus a bit. However, our thoughts about the weight, our thoughts about where we fit with the weight, which we'll go into next, is a greater topic. And so I'm just listening to see if there are any other on the physical side. I mean, obviously there's this balance that's required, and everybody's slightly different between sleep. Lack of sleep will make you gain weight. Between sleep, hormones, nutrition, and movement, those all have to be fairly balanced in order for the body to be in balance, right? So if you're ingesting an out of balance proportion of food, so you're having a high fat diet, what else? If you're eating too many proteins, animal proteins, and you just can't process it, your body gets inflamed, it'll cause weight gain. If you're processing too much of the same vegetables, that can cause an imbalance, changes the chemistry in the brain, and that can cause weight gain. So weight has its definitely physical imbalances that are necessary to identify. And the difficult things with blood tests, and if you've heard me before, I think I've mentioned that nutrition and the medical society, it's like one of the worst topics ever. Nobody knows what the hell they're talking about. It's so old, it's unbelievable. There are some people who are upgrading some of the nutritional considerations. Chinese medicine has some really ancient systems, but at the same time they are very compliant with a lot of people. Ayurvedic medicine also has some pretty good compliance, although again, it's just nutrition, man. Nutrition just is so difficult to get right for a lot of people. And so it's a lot of trial and error. Anthony William now, he's been out for a while. He talks about nutrition in a kind of back to the old school days, which is really great. I like some of the things he says, although there's just not a lot of support for his there's not a lot of support for once you start trying his system. And so that feels like a missing piece, although the information is cool. But everything, regardless of where you go, it's trial and error. You have to know your body. You have to listen to your body and attempt things systematically so you know what works and what doesn't. And get out of templates. Nutritional templates are just stupid. Okay. So the other part with weight gain and weight loss is there is no magic bullet, so stop looking for it. There is definitely emotional and spiritual components to weight loss and weight gain. Some people are trying to gain weight. I know. I have a hard time imagining that myself, but just kidding. Yes. So regardless of whether you're attempting to gain weight or you're attempting to lose weight, there are absolutely emotional belief system symbolic reasons as to what is contributing, and so I will go into those next, and I will see you in part 2.